Hello, another day, another video, even though they are both done, all those videos are done probably on the same day. Now let's talk about how I broke my social anxiety. Now why would I talk about my social anxiety? Why not talk about people's social anxiety? I want to tell you my experience so that you get to learn from it. So how did I build my social anxiety? Now in case you don't know, ever since I was a child, I did everything that I could to be a good boy so that I don't have to face the issues directly. I can face them indirectly, but I can't really face them directly. Let me face the camera a little bit better. So I was always introverted. I still am in some ways, but I was able to fix it a lot better, believe it or not. I'm so happy that I was able to fix it. So I used to always do good, never do bad, and whenever I do bad, I use my charm, my cuteness when I was a child, of course, to get out of trouble because, I look good. And I'm not going to show you a picture of me when I was a child, but you get the picture. You can imagine this lovely face when I was younger. So I escaped social interactions, and whenever I was put under direct light, I just start stuttering and never do anything. So we were discussing this one topic about the, I'm not sure what's it called in English, but let's say there's this thing in Islam where you get to meet the woman in the family before you get to marry her. So you get to see if she's a fit for you and if you are a fit for her. And I knew all the answers because my family taught me what to do then. I was around eighth grade, ninth grade, give or take, which is interesting. And the teacher was asking the questions because he was an Islamic teacher. And I gave one answer because I wasn't at the spotlight. When I said it, it was so perfect that the teacher was like, "Oh, man, stand up in front of the class and tell us more." And when he said that, I started sweating like crazy. I was like, "No, no, I don't remember. I don't remember. Put something else on the line." And they put the extroverted idiot on the main bench, metaphorically speaking. And there is this other incident where when I was studying in the medicine department, I don't know how to explain it perfectly, but I was trying to become a doctor, believe it or not, but I'm not. I'm instead a bachelor degree in English. So the teacher wanted us to be able to speak English in front of the crowd, which was my main source of phobia or fear. I'm not sure if it's called phobia because I was able to beat it. And he gave us this like children's story book. It's like the information in that book is so stupid. But the challenge was for us to just speak in front of the crowd. And the teacher was trying to support us. He was trying to help us escape the idea of being afraid of speaking in front of the crowd by memorizing what's in the book, which I appreciate. So I took that small, stupid book or booklet, whatever. I don't know the right word for it, but he gave us like this small book. I start reading it again and again and again. I was in front of the house outside at 4 a.m. The sun hasn't been out yet. And I was screaming the information. I wanted it to enter my brain, but every time I say something, I just keep remembering that I'm going to face 50 students in class because it was an English class, so there are more students, I believe. So I was saying the information out loud. I was walking as I was saying it to get rid of the stress. It just never worked. I couldn't even memorize the first page of the book or the small book. So we went to the class. Luckily, my name was in the bottom of the line, but the teacher said, "We're going to start from the bottom." We're going to start from the bottom. Now we're here. You know what I mean? So he started with the bottom. Because my name starts with the letter M, the likelihood for me to be mentioned is higher. I didn't want to be called. So he brought up all those introverts and they were able to speak. It turned out they weren't introverts. They just didn't care about winning or losing. I cared. I had this image that I wanted to portray that I'm so perfect. Because since I was a child, I was perfect. Or at least that's what I thought I was until I turned out I was full of imperfections. So he says, "Muhanna at the Beti." stand up. So I stand up and I start sweating like crazy. I go to the front of the class and he says, okay, you can start. And I was like, okay. I was like this, right? Assalamu alaikum. My name is Hanat Beti, and today we'll talk about the teacher was here. I was like, teacher, I don't think I can do it. And he's like, yeah, are you sure? I was like, no, I can't, I can't, I can't, I can't. So he was like, okay, you can have a seat, no problem. He knew that I was stressed. And I sat at the end of the aisle, at the end of the class, and I started crying my shit. I was crying immensely. I was like, wow, I can't do it. I was so scared, so scared. So it's something that I was able to realize until one situation after another where I was exposed to this situation more often. And somehow, some way, I decided to become a school teacher. School teacher, every day you have to give a presentation. Every day you have to memorize. Every day you have to go a cappella. Every day you have to speak out of nowhere. Every day you will be tested by the more intelligent students. So, the first thing that we have to understand for you to break your social anxiety is that, in my opinion, you have to admit it. Admit it. You have to say, you know what? I do have social anxiety. It's bad. It's not something that I'm proud of because I'm a man. I'm full of muscle, full of testosterone, but I have social anxiety. But I'm gonna admit it. Now, this just so that the smartasses can understand. This is my idea of social anxiety. Maybe you have something different. So I had to admit it. Second thing that you need to do for you to solve it or be more likely to solve it is that you have to, unfortunately, face it. Face it equal to exposure. How can you face it? By putting yourself on the spot and getting paid for it. So I'm a school teacher, and I switched my mentality from saying, being paid to teach them children. I was saying, I get the opportunity to learn to teach the children, and I get paid for it. You see the mind switch? I get to have the chance to teach them as students, some of them, and get paid for it. It wasn't a pleasant experience the first 2 months, by the way. It was awful. It was bad. It was, oh my God. But look at me now. I can type, I can write down, I can speak. It's just, honestly, it was worth it. So admit it, face it, which is exposure, and last but not least is, which is like very important, is that you have to repeat. Repetition. I don't know how to write down repetition. You know what? Let me give it a shot. So repetition. Repetition. I don't remember exactly. Repetition. I believe. Yeah. Whoop. Sorry. Yeah, looks about right, I think. Repetition. Whatever. So, repetition. You have to repeat until it's something that is easy to you. There were times where I go to the class and I haven't prepared the night before for the subject, which is something bad to admit, but I was just looking at the material for like 1 minute. I'm like, yeah, I get the picture now. So, repetition, 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 until it's something that is so easy that you actually thrive when you get to expose yourself in that situation. Now you can tell me, hey, Muhanna, tomorrow we want you to just tell a story in front of the crowd. And I'll be like, yeah, sure, no problem. Yeah, I've done it so many times. So many times. So we have 52 weeks. 52 weeks uh, multiplied by 5. So, hey Siri, what is 48 multiplied by 5?
48 times 5 is 240.
240 days! I repeat, I put myself in that exposure. 240! Do you know how much painful it was for me in the first couple of hours? Or a couple of days? Oh my god! It was painful. But honestly, it's like, I'm glad I went through that experience, but I don't want to go through that again. So you have to admit it. You have to admit that you have the problem. You have to face it, which is exposure, and then you have to repeat and repeat and repeat and repeat. This is the video. Now, for those who are interested in hearing more, bear with me. So there's this situation where I kind of, so the thing is, while I did have social anxiety, I couldn't see something that's going wrong and not talk, right? So there we had this teacher who was giving false information when I was about 10th grade, 11th grade, 10th grade. So he keeps teaching us in English, and he doesn't know that my English is better than his, in my opinion. So he gets to put false information on the board all the time. And I was like, hey, teacher, I wanted to be the good student and get his attention. And I was like, hey, teacher, could you fix this? Could you fix that? From what I know is that you have to do it like this, and you have to do this one like this. I was trying to be respectful, or at least that's what I thought I was being. So, wait. So the first time he's like, thank you, man. Thank you, man. Thank you, man. Thank you, man. Until I exposed him one more time, and he was like, you know what? If all the other students were as attentive as you, I would have been a good teacher and we would have had a good class. I wish you guys were as attentive as Muhannes. And that put such a smile in my face. I was like, oh my god, this teacher, he understands hard work. Until he had to leave the class, and then we had another teacher who took his place, unfortunately. Maybe I was a pain in the ass. Who knows? So the other teacher, I think he was alarmed by my existence, and he knew that there will be someone who was going to bother him every now and then. So he was also giving false information, and I was correcting him, and I was correcting him, and correcting him again and again and again. He's like, okay, man, thank you, man. Okay, man, thank you, man. Man, okay, khalas, stop it. And I was like, in my heart, I was like, no way, I'm going to stop. I want to be the good students, the good student that the teacher before you said that I was. So he faced us with this problem. He's like, oh, I can't use the green pen much. So we had this problem. He said, what is this? Laugh. Say with me. Laugh. Laugh. Good job. And we had the other word. What's that word? Love. 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 Good boy. Or girl. Or circle. Whatever. So he said, the way how you guys say this one is wrong. This is not the native way of saying things. I was like, okay, interesting. So how do we say this word? Maybe I was misinformed. He said, this pronounced the same way as this. So laugh, laugh. Say it with me. Laugh, 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 laugh. And I rose my hand again. I was like, hey teacher, so there's this movie that I watched, and they had The Rock in it, and The Rock is a native speaker. And he always said, I love you, instead of saying, I laugh you. So how can you say that, well, we are not saying it the same way as the native speakers? So he didn't like it, and he's, started fixing his posture, because we live in Saudi Arabia, And after he fixed it, he went for like the Cobra style, and he was like, I could have been a doctor. I could have been an engineer. I could have been an architect. I could have been a successful businessman. But I was only a school teacher. I only became school teacher to teach you sons of bitches. And when he said that, I was like, he just called me a son of a bitch. We're 10th grade. You can't say that to your students. It's not like I was disrespectful in calling you names or bothering you in class. At least that's what I thought. So he's like, Muhanna, your father will come tomorrow and we will have a conversation. And I was like, wow, okay, interesting. I go to my father, I explain to him the situation. He's like, Muhanna, maybe there's this misunderstanding. I was like, maybe, I don't know. I don't know. So my father comes in the next day. He doesn't know that my father also has an English degree. So my father came in the police uniform and he entered the school. Now, just to give you an idea, my father, he's dark-skinned from the sun because of the things that he did as a police officer, which is hard. While I am, on the other hand, I'm white, right? So he sat down, he spoke to the principal, and he spoke to the teacher. And he kept talking so foully, hopefully I said it correct, so foully about me. My father had his mouth open. He was like, what? My son is that bad? Really? He's the sweetest kid. So I got called, and they were, pretty much the students, they were like celebrating my death pretty much. But they appreciated that I was facing like the toughest teacher in school at the time. Or at least that's what he appeared to be. So I go to my father, I kiss his hand and I kiss his head out of respect because that's what we do. And I sit down next to him. Keep in mind that I'm white. My father is dark skinned. So the teacher was like, "This is your son?" He's like, "Yeah, why?" He's like, "Oh my God, no way! Your son is like the sweetest kid in class. He's so good. He's so shy, like a girl. Oh my God!" He literally called me a girl. I'm 10th grade. Why? There's nothing wrong to be a girl, but as a 10th grader who was raised in a certain manner, being called a girl is like not so good. It's like if a girl who's like very bold, very charismatic gets called a guy. Would she appreciate it? No. As far as I know, unless, again, we are in 2024, so you get to do whatever you want to do, right? This is back in 2014 or 13. I'm not so sure. I'm old. I'm 25. So, as he said that, I was like, wow, he just called me a girl. So my father was like, man, don't worry about it. You can go to class. I was like, oh, can I go home early? My father said, no, education first. I was like, such a bummer. I get to class, and then as we finished the class, we finished school, I went back home. And when I got back home, I spoke to my father. I was like, hey, so what do you think of the teacher? He's like, you know what, son? I don't know how he got his degree. I was like, me neither. I'm a student and I know more than him. But as I became a teacher myself, I was faced with the same consequences. It's a great experience again, but it's not something that I want to go through over and over again. So this is my story. Hopefully you get to enjoy the video. If you don't, then go hit your head to the nearest wall. And see you later.